And I kind of had this thought, like, I wonder when it started to decline. Like, now when you look at those buildings, the buildings are beautiful. It's a beautiful monument. But you don't hear anything about a move of God through those churches. And so just as a pastor, I was just kind of praying and meditating before God, like, I wonder when, like, it started to get off mission. I wonder when the purpose for which God had called that church to, when did they start to deviate from that purpose? When did, which at one time was a incredible, relevant move of God in that area, when did that relevant move of God become a religious monument? When did they lose their aggression? When did they lose their passion for others and what God had called them to do? And in this parable here that Jesus is talking about, he's really talking about, and he's unpacking this parable in the context that, man, the church needs to continue to be aggressive in reaching people. And he kind of talks about, there's this parable, and it's this kind of shrewd manager, and that though evil, he's commended for his planning and his ingenuity in basically devising such a scheme where even after he leaves, the estate of the wealthy employer, that he's still going to have friends, that people are going to welcome him in to their homes, to their businesses because of what he's done for them. And the thing is, when Jesus is about to, say, here's the lesson. The thing is, Jesus is saying, it's amazing how simple this is to worldly people. How simple it is in the minds of worldly people that you leverage your money to make friends and to have future opportunities. Yet when it comes to God's people, even though when we think of it in a worldly sense, leveraging your money and making opportunities with your money and making friends with your money. Let me tell you something. I'm from South Louisiana. This is how the entire governmental system of Louisiana works. It's called making friends with your money. I could take you to highways in Louisiana. Listen, they have been doing improvement work on that highway since I was born. I'm 43 years old. They are still improving 20 miles of a highway outside of Baton Rouge the last 43 years. You want to know why? Because somebody's friends with that concrete company, and somebody's friends in the political party or whatever that's approving that. Everybody's taking care of everybody. Is it unethical? I'm sure it is. But are they taking care of one another? Yeah. Not in a righteous way, but it's, like this shrewd manager. I mean, it has some creativity. It has some ingenuity. And this is what Jesus is saying. It's so easy for worldly people to understand this, to take your money and leverage investments and all that kind of stuff and make friends. Why is it so hard for the children of God when we're not even dealing with the temporal, we're dealing with the eternal? Why is it so hard for us to understand this? Think about how we do, even many of us, think about how much time and energy we give to planning our financial future in this temporal world. I mean, just turn on the news, man. People they're checking numbers. They're out with their calculators. They're calling their financial advisors. They're borrowing. They're buying and selling. They're doing all these things. They're putting all this energy so they can try to create maybe a retirement, try to create maybe some security for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. Yet we won't put a fraction of that energy into our eternal portfolio that Jesus said will be there for all eternity, for, if you put it in a timeline, billions and billions and billions of years, where people can't steal, where it won't rust, where it won't go away, where the kingdoms of the world can't take it back. Here's what I'm trying to say, church. We always need to be a church that is aggressive and understands eternity and understands that when we give our money to eternal purposes and for the gospel of Jesus Christ, when we give our money to that, it's not, so many people look at giving as like, it's like a loss. It's like you give it away. Jesus is saying, no, when you give to eternity, that is the highest possible return there is. It is the only return that is sure. And my prayer for us is that, man, we would care about our eternal portfolios. We wouldn't just look at it from a this world standpoint. That we wouldn't be like Jesus says. We wouldn't be ignorant, and we wouldn't, be like, hey man, all we're cared about. I mean, yes, we care about the gospel and we care about souls and we care about all that, but yet we spend so much time and energy thinking about how to take care of ourselves and our future with our money in the temporal. And Jesus says, if you'll trust me and invest in the only sure return, I'll promise you're not only going to be taken care in this life, but man, you're going to be taken care of big time in the life to come. And you're going to see how that investment in eternity, all the people that money was used for to reach for the gospel, they're going to be constantly thanking you and inviting you into their homes and thanking you for what you did for them. I can't wait. I can't wait till when I get to heaven. I want to thank so many people that invested in Campus Crusade for Christ and some other ministries where I really was, where it was the first time I heard the gospel, and that really impacted me and helped me to commit my life to God. I can't wait to get in there and thank the people who started that. I mean, I know that, Bill Bright and Billy Graham and all that, but thank those people that were giving into that, because look what God did in my life. Come on, can you give God a hand? But this is how churches start to decline. Here's what happens. Every church, all of those incredible buildings, all those monuments to God that most of them are empty. See, every single church, including Celebration Church, churches start off as a mission from heaven. That's the Great Commission, to go into all the world, preach the gospel, make disciples, teaching, baptizing. We stay on mission. When you're on mission, your heart cry is, we're reaching people. Are you following me? That's how you tell. Is a church on mission? Is a church really doing what God's called them to do? At the end of the day, their heart cry is, we're reaching people. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. You can't make disciples unless you reach people. You can't teach people unless you reach people. But what happens is, and it's so easy, so that church is reaching people, they're on mission, so God's blessing them. God's blessing the people in those churches. He's blessing their families. He's blessing them as they give. But then all of a sudden, it's so easy that as a church has success, and they get some stuff, and they get some buildings, and thank God there's a few empty seats up there in the top of the stadium, and there's some stuff. All of a sudden, it's just a little slip. All of a sudden, the heart cry goes from reaching people to, man, I think we're good now. And that's when you go from missions mode to what I call maintenance mode. And a church that's in maintenance, their heart cries, we're good. We're good. That's why Jesus rebuked the church in Laodicea. He said, man, you guys say that you're good, everything's great, you got all your stuff, you don't have need of anything. Man, you got your big building now, and you got all this, you got margin, you got all this stuff. Man, we're good, thank God. As soon as the church says we're good, we go into maintenance mode instead of missions mode, and we cease to become who God has called us to be. And it's the first step in a process where you end up going from mission to maintenance to a monument. So how does that happen? Where does that, let me kind of break it down now to our individual lives, okay? Because the church is made up of its people, right? Let me break it down to celebration. Let me break it down to our individual lives. When does that actually happen, that shift, missions to make? When does that shift? When our hearts, the cry of our hearts